I want to ask you a question that is slightly uncomfortable, right? When you look at Indian companies today, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about branding?
Branding is not about selling. It is about the experience that a consumer feels.
So, one Indian brand that you feel that everybody should study.
I hate when marketers only become a lead gen machine. Honestly, people don't want anymore that perfect video with nothing. Now we are back to again looking for imperfection because human beings are not perfect.
Okay.
Can India be from just a delivery machinery to a creator machinery? To me, a marketing has to have a seat at the table at the board and talk business, talk revenue.
Think of the last 5 consumer things that you have bought. And has anybody sold it to you or you made the purchase yourself? Hello and namaskar, I'm Sudhanshu. I'm the host of Why Not India podcast series. And on Why Not India, it is built around one question and one question only. Is why is India, despite 1.4 billion people, does not have a brand that the world truly desires? And on every episode, we bring guests who have built brands and who are a voice of their own. And so today on Why Not India, I'm joined by Darshana Shah, who has spent close to 3 decades building brand and customer experience inside some of India's biggest retail brands. She was the Group CMO at Aditya Birla Capital and Aditya Birla Health Insurance. And before that, she had headed marketing and customer experience at Reliance Retail Pantaloons. She also hosts her own podcast show, the Darshana Show, which you guys should check out. She's an active investor and she has been named as one of India's leading marketing voices by India Startup Times. So, Darshana, welcome to the show. What keeps you busy these days? What's your journey been and how it is right now?
Thank you so much for firstly inviting on this interesting podcast at Why Not India. Yeah, and India wants to do many things, but why not is an interesting conversation. What's keeping me busy? Anybody who's coming out after almost 3 decades of work is still finding herself. I'm in between enjoying, so I'm just 2 months out. So enjoying this break at the same time, creating a newer version of me. That what is my new version, new avatar, the new way of doing so that's where I am. Yeah, I also want to become a founder because I meet a lot at my podcast. I want to become a businesswoman at the same time, do something globally at the same time. Chill, yeah. I'm enjoying this. That I'm not under any time construct, So, yeah, many things. Early days, to be honest. Yeah.
No, enjoying this is quite important because one of the things that I've learned.
Though, I just launched Darshana Shah Strategic Consulting and Coaching Advisory because, like you have an education side, Sudhanshu. I also want to do leadership education and see how we can get world to move into their dreams of the CEO, CXO, boardrooms. So that's where I am.
This is really good. I have seen LinkedIn posts about your launch of your consulting. All the best. I know that I've been in this space for some time. I know the best experiences make the best coaches, and you have had plenty in your career, right? So I'm very sure that your experience building people at the leadership table would be very, very helpful, and we can definitely talk about it. So once this podcast is done, we would love to see what else is there on the table.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your journey. You have spent 2-3 decades building brands, right? And you've worked across sectors: retail, banking, insurance, services. I want to ask you a question that is slightly uncomfortable, right? When you look at Indian companies today, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about branding? Leaders have about branding?
See, unfortunately, branding has become, first of all, a cost side. So it's always been that game that, oh my God, it's expensive to create a brand. If you see a lot more today, the D2C companies, they are all coming in, they're all chasing growth. So everybody is putting a lot of money in consideration and, immediately acquiring customer. Whilst I understand that, brand is something that takes you long term. And brand is not a campaign, brand is not a logo, identity, design, It's an overall, ultimately your organization promise, your organization's experience and the promise that it has to deliver to its customer, its consumer, it's a brand. So there is no other debate in that, right? So that's your clarity. But what it has happened is it has come down to, let's do one brand campaign, let's have celebrity, let's have creators, let's have, so it's become very limiting. It's not that limiting. It's not an identity, logo, color, or one campaign or celebrity. It's an overall organization experience and the promise that it's delivering. Whatever it's set out to do, what is it delivering to to its consumer, and that means every part of the organization is a brand custodian. I think that's the misconception. It's not a functional or branding team only.
Right. And this is something that even I have had difficulty explaining it to leaders, especially you have organizations which are run by the sales VPs and others, and they feel कि अच्छा branding का एक campaign कर दो, do this, get me some leads, So that is, but the best brands are the brands where you don't have to sell, right? The way I try to explain it to people is that think of the last 5 consumer things that you have bought, and has anybody sold it to you, or you made the purchase yourself? If you think like that, you will realize that you have made a purchasing behavior because you were sold on the brand to begin with, right? So my question to you is, what do you think companies like Toyota or Apple or Nike, they understand about branding that we don't?
See, like you rightly said, branding is not about selling. It is about the experience that a consumer feels. There is a meaning to it, right? Let's say Nike. Nike was not selling shoes. Nike didn't go out to say, I'm making the best shoes. Nike was selling the entire experience that you deliver whilst you are at, sports. So it says it's selling the whole human potential. Apple didn't go out creating the best product. They sort of, took it on its head and said, my design is the best, so the whole technology that you wouldn't have thought of, they bought all of, and they made it simple through their design and innovation. So it's not about, I'm not buying an Apple phone today, for the talking actually camera, there's so many things. So they turned it, and similarly Toyota, right? So the whole trust, the promise is what you, and for the consumer, what they're doing is this desired feeling that I get when I'm using that product. It is it's an emotional connect. It is it is my identity. Like, I love taking Apple products because it's my status, my identity. It is more than the transactional behavior that a consumer will have with a product or services. I think that's what they have sold, the desire that a human has, and how they have made it meaningful, the experience. To me, that's what really is different, and that's where, Sudhanshu, I feel India has a job to do, and I know that is why you are here. That why not India? In my mind, we have been fantastic manufacturing, so we do, but we were stuck in price and distribution. India has to take its Made in India promise to the global, that desire India. We are not just about giving you the affordable product at the best efficiency and distribution scale, because obviously, but I have innovation, I have design. So can we think of design, technology, and our human insights together, the inciting that you get? Can I make that powerful and not just be created in India, as in made in India, to can India be a desire to the global platform? We are not thinking global first. We think India first. Can our brands become global first, as a platform? I think that's the difference.
That is a huge difference. And one personal experience also I have had is where a lot of Indian companies, a lot of founders, when you have a sales first approach or acquisition first approach, what you feel is ki, acha, let's do the sales first, let's acquire the customer. Good. And what happens is everything else post that, there is a huge drop in that experience. So what you were talking about, this is something that you have done, and that is why I want to ask you this question. That's, you don't win customer trust, you don't desire something just because you have got the product. You desire something, but because that experience, the promise and the experience are in sync.
Absolutely.
One example is when I was back in college, when Apple was launched, it was not only about owning an iPod. It was also because if something happened to the iPod, the return process was so simple, right? It was everything, the entire experience of stepping into an Apple store. If you're facing trouble with your products, how it is, and I see a lot of products where after sales, everything else goes down, right? You have led both marketing and customer experience, and many organizations treat these as different functions. How should actually companies think that they should be impossible to separate? Because customer experience is very big in building a long-term brand.
No, absolutely. And I am grateful to my BFSI experience, where they brought it all together for me. I done that in Hypercity also because marketing also owns customers. You are starting from your who's my customer, what is the persona, what are the different kind of consumer segments, what are their desires, what are their triggers, barriers, right? You do all that insighting. You design so the product and promises is for that persona. Now you can't just sell, and like you said, it's not selling and forgetting. You have to carry that customer through its life cycle. You have to create the lifetime value. And who better than a marketing department? Who better than, because now the customer design, see, finally the execution can happen at the operations end, or in my lending business, it could have been at the collection. There are various people. But can the design thinking of, the same profile of a customer from, let's say, because I'm in Pune currently, in Pune, so-and-so 35-year-old, now that entire behavior of that customer, who can think? Because I am not just creating the discovery and selling. Can I create, and not the lead? I hate when marketers only become a lead gen machine. I think you're carrying that customer through the life cycle, and that's where the experience comes in. And it also comes with a lot of insighting. It's not that just because I've done a certain. So when I was in retail, we used to do a lot of customer insighting on the retail store design and how they moved, right? So who better than marketing can, hold that whole thing for you? So that designing the journey and creating that experience, nuancing and holding customer, data points. So you can say the customer outcomes. So even if you're an operations person who's finally servicing the customer, you are accountable from the experience point of view. You are accountable from the customer outcome, not your operating outcome. Most of the times then the teams become silo, right? Sales ने आज sales कर दिया, धंधा हो गया. फिर service में मैंने तो अपना एक मेरे को call आया था, I did my servicing, I closed loop it. That is where the silos start breaking. So when you have this created a proper experiential design, and that's what becomes your rule book or your guarding rail, through which you work through your blueprint, that's when, Sudhanshu, you will see the difference, because now you're calling customer processes and customer outputs. You're not looking at my process has delivered this. Your dashboard changes. Your dashboard starts as a customer dashboard, and what the customer at every point has felt. Now that's a very different thinking than doing a operations dashboard, sales dashboard, risk, all of that, different department. When you start coming in together, I think that's where the synergy starts happening. And I absolutely agree that marketeers are best suited to create that design thinking and the journey building, holding and making every department accountable for that, whilst individual departments are necessary to do their role of execution.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about AI. AI is both an enabler and a leveler, right? Every organization now boasts of having AI tools. In fact, all the AI tools everybody has access to. Doing things badly has become very difficult, right? Say, for example, things like email, or say, for example, writing a campaign. Those small level mistakes have been completely eliminated. But if everybody has access to the same AI tools, in terms of, I'm talking about marketing and other places, where does competitive advantage in terms of marketing teams come? Because there are programs that we do for marketing teams and this is one question that constantly comes. If all marketing teams are using the same set of LLMs, where is my competitive advantage coming from?
So it's interesting era, right? That earlier AI in technology became the differentiator. Today, the human knowledge is becoming the differentiator, because now when AI is democratizing your execution, like you said, there is content, video, analytics, data, everything, personalization, everything, and AI can give you. Now it is a human experience, human knowledge, human intuition, which is becoming a big differentiator. And that is what the world is now talking, because honestly, people don't want anymore that perfect video with nothing. Now we are back to again looking for imperfection, because human beings are not perfect. We are designed to be imperfect, right? So you can, because I have done a lot of work in your content and the video and all of that, and I suddenly realized that consumers are asking for that imperfect. They can see through the AI content and they are saying, no, give me that, I'm okay. So that's the world. But yes, today to me, human being are becoming that asset back again.
Just wanted to add a bit as well, right? Say, for example, this was a discussion that I was having, that earlier, say 20 years back, when access to the customer was a premium, right? So, for example, the best you could do is a newspaper ad or a television ad, which cost a lot of money to reach the customers. Now, what has happened in the last 10-15 years is everybody has a mobile phone. You can reach your customers very easily, right? And the same customer you can target, retarget again, and all of that. So I think somewhere what has happened is that ownership of driving the best quality work has somewhere gone down. Like, you run a campaign, you say, okay, this campaign, then after 15 days I'll run another campaign and stuff like that. But if you remember a TV ad, it used to take 6 months to make an ad, and you had to stick with it, right? So that the risk to reward ratio was very high there. With AI, even that is becoming very simple. Even the campaigns that are creating it can be created very fast. You can do for every persona, you can create targeted, personalized ads and stuff like that. You can run campaigns for them. However, what you said is that how do you bring that human element? How do you bring that rawness? How do you bring that emotion? All of that is where competitive advantage in terms of marketing is coming. So that is the conversation bit that I wanted to add there.
Yeah, absolutely with you, because I think that's where the game changes, and that's why I do feel that when brands and organizations are suddenly taking a call and cutting down on their marketing team, I think they have to, like I had said, you have to realign yourself. You will have to reskill them, and you'll have to reimagine. Cutting is very easy, laying off is very easy, but you still need this human experience and knowledge which is consistent, because AI has its hallucination, it can go wrong, and that's the only way you can differentiate today.
Absolutely. In fact, some of the largest organizations, they have now started reinvesting. So even companies like ChatGPT, they have started hiring a CMO, SEO experts.
Yeah.
So that has become back on the table. You could hire now you can. I only see this people who want to create some sensational content on LinkedIn or Instagram that I fired my entire marketing team and I'm working with these 5 agents. But if you look at the largest organizations, they understand that it's the human element, the human knowledge, the human differentiation now comes with a lot of premium. So I think that is in the age of AI, we are becoming more human first. So I like that bit of it to be right. Yeah.
Thanks.
And you have worked in some of the largest institutions in India. Like, what is the hardest part of leading change? You have led teams, right?
Yeah.
You launched a few campaigns at Aditya, Birla and other places. When thousands of people who are set in their way of working, they have accepted something, and from a leadership, how do you approach it? What is the hardest part of bringing about that change?
So I remember when I had joined Hypercity, when I was gotten from the Future Group, Reliance and all of that. They were very clear that they wanted somebody because they wanted to go through the change. Now, change management is not easy because there are people, like you said, they have built it over years and years through a certain belief and certain, vision, mission, belief specifically, and consistency. So that conviction that the team had, which got them there, and suddenly there is a new team hired to say that, well, what got us here will not take us there. It's easier said and done because there is a whole machinery who knows that way, because that sort of becomes your culture. And change and transformation is about, really testing that, is this culture really the right one? We need a change, we need transformation. So what becomes the biggest roadblocker is the belief, the conviction that the existing team is carrying. Now, obviously, you can't just, so I remember when I was hired and my boss said that, well, so we have to make the change, but we have to create an evolution and not a revolution. You can't walk in and say that, guys, this was all fantastic, but including my own function, but from today onwards, this is the way we will go, because this is all, what you did was good, but it's not great anymore. It is all wrong. You can't. So you will have to pick up what is good and what are the new things. You will have to carry the people, the narrative, the storytelling, taking them. And that's why leadership storytelling is very important. The vision of the leader aligned to the team. And you will have still people who are still not getting in the bus. They are still the naysayers. They still take time. Every organization has gone through. Eventually, it comes a time that if you get most of the guys aligned, because initially it's more softer, it's more convincing. It is more saying that okay, what was there is good. Now with this, can we add more? And because you have to carry people along, right? Same in organization, politics, anything. But then comes a time, Sudhanshu, where you have to, when the rubber hits the road, you have to be very clear. Okay, fine, this is the bus. You ride on or you are out. Then there does come a time, because after some time, when everybody's aligned to it, including the board, the stakeholder, and everybody. So it is not an easy job. First thing first, the leadership team has to align, because change in these kind of things is always top down, and the people below read your body language. If you are you're just aligned for the heck of it, but you go back and tell your team, no, this is not going to happen, they can see through. So it is so important for any change in the organization. The core team has to absolutely align and believe. That's when this is not a bottoms up game; it is a top down game.
Oh, it is. It is. So, as we started with Why Not India, and the entire region, and I had told you when I was interacting with you, this entire thought of starting with this podcast came from the lack of global consumer brands. When you travel outside, you don't see a brand that is desired, right? Like, say, for example, one of my friends was telling me, Sudhanshu, and he exports a lot, and he exports wheat, and he says that I export a lot, but to the end consumer, it goes under an American name, because the day it goes as an Indian name, my sales will go down, right? Similarly, if you look at things like, we spoke about Toyota, Apple, and stuff like that, even smaller things, chocolates, there are multiple consumer products, and when you go outside, you see that India is absent from the shelf. But now we are in 2026, now say 2035, 10 years down the line. If we imagine a time where an Indian brand is as desired as, say, Gucci is, or say a Rolex is, right? And it is one of the most desired brands in the world. What needs to change from here till then for that transition to happen, so that if somebody sitting in Italy prefers an Indian watch over a Swiss watch? I'm just giving an example. How does that happen?
Yeah, couldn't Titan become that global brand sitting next to Rolex or Seiko? See, the thing is, like I said, you gave me the example of your friend who is distributing wheat. We send our Ayurveda, forget everything, it's an India story, or our Kolhapuri, which Prada took at the ramp walk, and So the thing is, we are stuck in the whole made in India and export to the global. I think that narrative in 2025, I had to do it. Can we become the creator for the world? Can we create that desire for the world? So we have to be international first, in my mind. If you bring in, because we have the population, we have the technology, we have the talent, can we not design global today and innovate global? Today we are not solving for that. We are designing it for India and exporting. Becoming the largest export hub is not going to create the story. The storytelling has to change by itself. Why is Nike or learning from Nike or learning from Apple? Can we not do it? Of course, we have very good quality brands in India. I'm just taking Tata as an example. I'm taking Titan as an example because you spoke about watches. What stops Titan to become global first and India later? We don't do that, and that is really changing your design thinking. Then you have to know the global desire, the global design. Where I was coming from, that can India be from just a delivery machinery to a creator machinery who's creating for the global platform, who's thinking global, who's creating a whole human talent, reskilling them to think global and not just export. Because we are good at making and white labeling. We need to tell our stories globally and become a creator. India, so desired from India vis-a-vis, made in India, I'm saying. That's the story that we need to really change. And can India be that brand? See, when you talk about Italy, talk about Korea. I love the way Korean has gone around. They bought in their K dramas, their K food. They bought in their K whole beauty and makeup ritual. They stuck to their story, but they told to the global population. So India has to stick to its roots and narrative. The storytelling is Indian, hardwired. But why is it beneficial and meaningful for the global audience? I think that narrative needs to change. And we just have to go chest thumping, believe we are giving it away. The Americans are taking away our yoga and saying that it's theirs. Somebody's taking our, so that Isabgul, the, what do you call it, Xylem husk.
Yeah. Psyllium husk.
Psyllium husk, and calling it the probiotic from, no, because we are giving it away. Try telling Korea to give up their ginseng. Everybody knows ginseng comes from Korea, right? So their glass skin.
Yeah.
So I think we are not doing that. We are very happily exporting and white labeling it. That needs to change.
I think so. So there are two parts to this, from what I believe is. One part of that is, say for a company like Korea, it never had the luxury of just being limited to Korea because it was always a very small market. So you have to be export first. A lot of companies, India being a big enough market, what it does is you can be huge volume, low in value, and you can still exist, right? That is one part. So a lot of companies, they don't think that I need to be global from day one. That's one. The second part of that is about the desirability of the country itself, right? How a country is perceived outside also impacts its brand and the products coming out of it, right? So till the time this narrative about India being overpopulated, the infrastructure not being there, it being dirty, hygiene, there are multiple discipline, there are multiple issues. Until the time that narrative sticks to that, that products to be desirable will become a little secondary. So a country has to become desirable first, and there is that is why conversations like this are very important. So I absolutely agree with you that how do we become the creator first?
Let's talk about China. China also was number one. See what did they do in the last 2 decades? Yeah, they have turned it around. Today you go to China and I was in Shanghai, I was in Shenzhen. People love going to their markets. The world global products are coming from there. Their innovation is in another level. Now China and India at one point of a time both highly populated 1 and 2, but China has done it. Today, the Chinese product which we were talking are very cheap and all of that, suddenly it has changed, right? So I think yes, you are right. We have to internally change the game. That's why that is storytelling, right? That showcase India is no more the country that where you walk here and you will see cows on the road and snake charmers. No, but that narrative has to be changed by us. So India has to become a brand the way Korea has become a brand. The country is a brand today. And then comes the next the deeper layers. Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is that there has to be a very defined step. It has to be a conscious effort to make that change. And you took 3 names, all Oriental countries. I'll tell you how they have rebranded themselves. Japan has rebranded itself post World War II. The Japanese image of being cruel, not friendly, all of that happened post World War II. But they put their head down and they just focused on precision manufacturing, quality and stuff like that. And they rebuilt their country in 30 years.
Correct.
China in the 90s, we were told that don't buy Chinese product, they don't last. But even our Apple phones and our MacBooks, everything is now either in China or Vietnam. Everything comes from there. Korea has done that. Korea has kind of taken the entire world by storm by being first. I think it is one example of being culture first, where K-pop and right from 20 years back, the songs that had become popular, that culture first brand takeover is something that Korea has done really well.
Look at the accessibility. Now we all can do because digital and technology is giving you the access. So if the access is common to everybody, it's virtual, then why not? And that's what Korea has ridden on, the whole Netflix with their K-drama and all. I mean, before that, at least I didn't see any K-drama. For me, when Netflix came home is when I started seeing a lot of K-drama. Then their so I think that's how are we using this whole technology which is accessible to everybody globally now?
Yeah, it is. Earlier, I think my first few interactions with Korean culture would have been through that song Gangnam Style that came and Parasite as a movie which won Oscars. So it was slow immersion, but suddenly after that immersion, it was a lot of Korean, and if kids can't know, so the way they have influenced is a good case study. And I think our culture is that strong.
Absolutely.
When you travel and I had made a TED talk about that. By say right from Ethiopia, so there was a time when Ethiopians used to consider themselves Indian, and that is how the kind of the close relationship was for thousands of years. From
You
Ethiopia
are
to
into
Japan,
history or
we had
ethnography or something? Sudhanshu, are you a
no,
great
no,
lover of ethnography and history, or what is? How do you like? Because I didn't know Ethiopians
no,
thought of themselves as Indians.
no. So Ethiopia has two parts to right. One part of that is Ethiopia has had it was our gateway to Europe for a very long time,
Yeah.
and so from Indian ports, things would go even pre Alexander era. Uh, Things would go from India to Ethiopia. There were two routes, either through Persia or through Ethiopia, and so there were a lot of cities in Ethiopia that had a lot of cultural Indian heritage. The second part of that is Ethiopia was ruled by the same East India Company before India got independence. So, in fact, there was a long period of time where Ethiopians used to hold a Indian passport.
Oh, okay.
So,
Interesting. I wasn't aware about
so,
this.
so Ethiopia was large part of the larger Indian British Empire,
Yes.
British India Empire, and they used to have. If an Ethiopian had to go to Europe, they had to show their Indian passport to get there. So these are the two small things. It's just that I like knowing about this, and I am kind of for the last 5 years I've become very India positive. My entrepreneurial journey has kind of taught me that you have to make India desirable first, and that is what my entire effort has been.
Absolutely.
And my entire manifesto of starting our brand consulting Qissahauz is that we should have 15 global consumer brands in the next 10 years, and we are working towards it. I know
Amazing.
some very good people doing great work there. So I think it's work that has just started, but I'm sure that in the next 10-15 years the world will be different.
Yes.
So my question to you is: say, if you become the chief brand officer of India, and what is it that you would change? How do we make that transition?
No, so exactly. I was telling you that making from India as a big market to the global, can India become the creator for globe? I think that's the imagery basically, the whole imagery that what even you were talking about, that our city is this, that. Whilst there is a lot of internal work to be done, of course, because India has to come together to have this ambition to be global, right? It can't be an independent marketeers who are doing it. It's India. So all your conglomerates, your Tatas and Reliance and Birla, I mean, all the conglomerates will also have to come together. The government, I think there's a lot that, see, even China did that. It brought everybody together to say that we want to turn around from being the cheap product creator to becoming a global. So this is desired by India coming together and saying that, yeah, right, we are not just an exporter, but now we are a creator for global consumers. We create brands for global. So we think global and create it from local. So the other way around has to stop. And if we are able to do that, I think there is no looking back. We have the best of houses, we have the best of innovative mind, technology. We can bring it all together. I think that's not a problem. It's about just coming together. In my mind, is about India coming together as India. India today, the India, Bharat, every 200 kilometers, all that is great story. But can all of that come together as Hindustan or India? And that, I think, is the leap where, so you have so many founders, communities and all. Can they come together and say that we are ready to take that leap for India's story? I think, Sudhanshu, because that's the game changer. There is no other way to do it. I know there are small independent brands. I met a very interesting, entrepreneurial couple in Nashik. I was there 2 weekends back. Now they have put their sustainable fashion on the Paris ramp walk and all of that. So people are doing that in their bit, but that's not easy because, like you said, why should Prada make a Kolhapuri chappal famous? Whether it is controversy or whatever, why is India not taking it out? I think that's the difference I'm drawing.
See, what happens is, and I made a LinkedIn post about it also, is, say, for example, a couple of months back, half of India was cheering for Argentina, the other half was cheering for Spain for the Football World Cup.
Yes, oh, I was cheering
90%
for
of the
Spain though.
people,
As much as I liked,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But 90% of those people would have never traveled to either of those countries. But what happens is you get an impression of a country through the stories that travel. And that is why not India, or you coming on the show and other people coming on the show and telling about it is so important, is why this experience of India that you spoke about is so important, because people perceive countries through the stories that travel. Many of us haven't gone to many of the countries. There is so much more to see. But when somebody talks about India versus when somebody lands in India, if that experience matches, only then in the long term the brand is created. While we can talk about yoga, we can talk about Ayurveda, does that experience hold true when somebody lands in India?
I may have a viewpoint. I'm saying that वो जरूरी नहीं है. Today when I went to South Korea last year for a holiday, South Korea is, oh my god, of course it is a mecca of beauty and skin and all, but then they have their culture. People are all over. They are cooking. They are equally crazy streets. That Gangnam street is like one small street. So, but did I not see a lot of the Korean product? Tons and tons and tons. What they're selling outside to what they have, there could be just some brands just made for global. So sometimes I don't think whilst I'm saying our metro cities are fairly okay. I mean, yes, we have infrastructure and all to do, but that does not still stop us today to sell India stories. I think there we are. Our metros are fairly, I mean, Bangalore is a Silicon Valley, you have Hyderabad, we are doing a lot of tech work. People, so I do feel that you don't really have to, I mean, this regardless, India has to come together. I'm saying the infrastructure has to become better. There is no debate. That is regardless whether we go abroad, become a global brand or not. But without that also, I think today we have enough goodness and enough power to make this happen. I think that's what
Absolutely.
I'm trying to differentiate here.
No, I absolutely agree, because it cannot be a chicken and egg story. That it cannot be one all over the other. It has to, both of the things have to evolve together. There have to be Indian brands who go and take on the world, and they say that okay, we are the most desired brands in the world. At the same time, India, it is coming together, and we as a country have made a lot of progress, and it will come together. So I want to end this with some rapid fire questions. It's been very lovely talking to you, but I also want to understand how what do you think about, so one Indian brand that you feel that everybody should study.
See, there are many, but if you're talking from the India narrative point of view, I think the way Tata Group, and I do hold a lot of respect and inspiration with Mr. Ratan Tata. So the whole, whether you see Taj, where it came together from the culture, when that the 2611 happened. Of course, the whole Tata Neo. So they've adopted the newer technology. They've with now the platform success later, but whether it was Tata Neo acquiring so many things. So Tata has from manufacturing to consumer to CPG to creating brands like Tanishq, Titan. I do feel that we do have a power in. I mean, it is personally, I do feel that. Well, there are many young brands which are coming in, but to me, if it was a conglomerate, I would have said Tata.
One global brand that you really admire?
Again, many, but one that I always have been awe of, even if they have lost some of their mojo, has always been Apple. I'm out and out Apple girl. I have been on the Fifth Avenue Apple store on the day 16 was launched, and I am as excited about them. I understand that they have that, but I still love Apple. Everything about Apple.
One marketing myth you think needs to disappear?
I think this. My problem is that marketing, first of all, is just one cost center. Is my biggest problem always in life, and there I feel the marketers also have a role to play to understand revenue, understand business, how to bring things together, and not just become one poster boy of supporting one sales department and helping them create their stories, their sales collaterals and brochures. Can you not start playing a larger revenue game? I think that's one area I do still feel. Otherwise, you're always sitting in your annual EOP between a CFO deciding what budget you should have and the sales guys telling you what you should create. I think that's a
Yeah.
absolute postman job done, which I hate. To me, a marketing has to have a seat at the table at the board and talk business, talk revenue, and how
Yeah.
marketing and brand can make a difference. One more thing, I also
Well,
feel that marketing or the brand is only the marketing depart or the that department's job. That is another myth that has to go. Every person in an organization is a brand custodian. It cannot be through a department. Everybody has to live the brand values, and I think that's
Hmm.
another myth in my mind that has to a misconception.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, one leadership habit that you never compromise on.
See, I do feel when you go become a leader, no, I mean there are many things that ride on you. One of that, I believe in showing up consistently. You have good days, you have bad days, you have bad reviews. It is there. It's all there. Everybody goes through it, but you will still have to show up. Happy, unhappy, you have to show up consistently, believing in what you have decided. You have to pivot if you have to, but I think that is very, very important. Showing up consistently.
One book that every marketer, especially young marketers, should read.
How Brands Grow by Byron Shah. I think that's an interesting book because everybody has done Philip Kotler, but this is a different take. So How Brands Grow.
One campaign that you really like, which you wish that you had worked on.
See, I mean, again, whilst I love Apple, but I love Nike. So even when I was doing,
Okay.
yeah, I have worked on Olympics. I have partnered with them, but the way Nike has taken and not being, that just do it, and the way they transcended across sports, across humanity, and brought in the human side, across in all their campaign. I think that bit I really admire still. It may be but that the way they do it, it is really interesting. Not everybody's been able to do.
One business leader with whom you would like to have a coffee meeting, dead or alive, anybody would do.
So one would obviously be currently Elon Musk. I'm very excited to understand how he thinks and how he takes the world along with it. He can be as he can be as uncanny, he can be as quirky. I mean, no quirky, whatever. But at the same time, I mean, thinking about SpaceX and Mars and Tesla, I think I find it really amazing. I mean, keeping the kind of things that he's created, the voice he has, the power. He was also in the cabinet with Trump, and he got out of it, and all of that. So one is definitely him. The other, I mean, I think I can tell you two, three. I am keen on obviously Steve Jobs because, like I said, the brand I really loved. I have grown reading, seeing his movies, doing everything around. Reading everything around him. So for sure. The third in my mind also would be Ratan Tata. It's Ratan Tata.
Yeah. One prediction about branding in the age of AI.
So again, like I said, because brand is overall the experience and not a function department media campaign, with AI democratizing it, it's human, so your brand has to be humanized more and more to become a differentiator. So your brand cannot suddenly look like an AI. So the more and more your brand truth, and that's why knowing your brand values, what have you set out for, more and more has to come. So it's a humanizing your brand as a differentiator, I would feel, in the AI world.
One word you hope that the world associates with India in 20 years from now.
Truly innovation, yeah. I mean, we keep talking. Innovation sometimes, gets really, sorry to say, bastardized. But if India has to step up, just being, in my mind, from a great manufacturing or great service provider or GCC and all of that, can we really truly stand for innovation and design thinking?
Final, it's about this podcast that we have. Complete the sentence, why not India? Because
So I had written this down, but I'm going to read. Because the talent, ambition, and ideas are already there. Now we just need to come together to build it as one India, one Bharat.
absolutely, we have it. We just need to prove it. So, Darsha, I have your, of course, your experience, but also the passion. I think where you are now, the way you look at things, it's both. You're looking at the future. You think you have seen what goods we can deliver. So for me, it has been a very fun last 45 minutes having interacted with you. A lot of learning as well. As you start your Darshana Shah 2.0, I wish you all the good success. And I think that India needs to have people who can bring a very not so popular but also the global way of looking at brand building. So I'm very sure that the work that you will do will have a great impact in the coming years. And it was wonderful having you here. So, any last words that you would like to share with our viewers, our listeners?
No, I mean, thank you so much. I also enjoyed, and I genuinely like what you're doing, and I hope you have more. You have a tribe with you, Sudhanshu, for why not India? Because it can't be just one person. You need a tribe who believes that why not India on a global platform now. So, yes, more power and more success to you, and happy to if anything that you think I can bring on the table with you. But I truly enjoyed myself. Thank you so much. This is a very different conversation because I usually go for all CMO, marketing, AM, and but this you're talking more from why are we not out there on the global? So I enjoyed this conversation.
No, thank you so much. And that is, I think, India is mature enough now to have that conversation as to why shouldn't we be there? Why shouldn't we be the most desired nation? Why shouldn't we have brands where people love to, even somebody sitting in Chile, in say Valdivia or someplace, they are looking and saying that this brand from India really makes me like just like the way you feel for Apple. I want to have a brand like that, and we should all kind of desire like that, right? So, in the deepest forests of Amazon to the best cities of Seoul and Paris,
Yes,
Indian brands need to be out there,
correct.
and we all have our task to win that, and that is the conversation that we want to have, and that is why we continuously endeavor to bring more voices, more brand builders like you on this conversation. So, thank you so much for coming, talking, sharing your wisdom with us. And yeah, this is me signing off. And for everybody listening to this, we'll come back with another great brand builder. So stay tuned. Thank you so much.